The fabric of reality screamed as it tore open above the maelstrom, that churning vortex of elemental chaos where the world's ley lines converged in violent discord. Arcane lightning split the perpetual storm clouds, but this was no natural phenomenon. The tear in space itself bled with an otherworldly crimson radiance that had nothing to do with Azeroth's magic systems. It pulsed with an alien energy that made the very elements recoil in confusion. High Priestess Tyrande Whisperwind stood on the cliffs of Dark Shore, her ancient eyes widening as she witnessed the anomaly. 10,000 years of life had shown her many impossibilities, yet this defied even her vast experience. The tear expanded with violent force, reality itself buckling under pressure from something beyond. "Elune preserve us," she whispered, her hand instinctively moving to the bow across her back. What manner of force breaches the barriers between worlds? Beside her, Malfurion Stormrage's connection to the Emerald Dream suddenly erupted with warning signals. Every druid across Azeroth felt it simultaneously, a presence entering their world that registered as neither demon nor void creature, neither titan nor old god. Something entirely new. "The world soul cries out," Malfurion said, his voice strained. "Whatever comes through that portal does not belong to our reality. The very planet rejects its presence." The tear contracted suddenly, expelling its cargo with tremendous force. A shockwave of alien energy rippled outward, disturbing the maelstrom's chaotic patterns and sending waterspouts hundreds of feet into the air. When the disturbance cleared, a single figure descended through the storm clouds, wreathed in brilliant blue-white energy that illuminated the darkness like a falling star. Vegeta's eyes snapped open as he plummeted through unfamiliar skies. His last memory was training in the hyperbolic time chamber, pushing his limits in preparation for the next threat to Earth. Then the dimensional walls had simply collapsed around him, pulling him through a corridor of shattering realities. He had felt himself torn from his universe and hurled into this one with no control over the process. The Saiyan prince halted his descent 1,000 feet above the churning waters, his aura flaring as he surveyed his surroundings. Below him, a massive whirlpool dominated the seascape, its waters glowing with magical energies that his senses could detect but not categorize. In the distance, continents stretched to the horizons, their land masses dotted with structures that suggested civilization. "Where the hell am I?" Vegeta muttered, clenching his fists. "This isn't Earth. This isn't even my universe." His key senses extended outward, probing this new world for power signatures. What he found both intrigued and disappointed him. Thousands of energy sources peppered the planet, but most barely registered compared to even the weakest Z fighters. Still, there were concentrations of power worth investigating, clusters of stronger signatures in various locations, and something deeper, a vast consciousness that seemed to permeate the planet itself. Before he could begin his exploration, a massive shape broke through the clouds above him. Vegeta looked up to see a creature of impossible size descending toward him, a dragon, easily 500 feet from snout to tail, its scales shimmering with colors that seemed to shift between blue, green, and bronze. Ancient eyes regarded him with an intelligence that surprised the Saiyan. "Interloper," the dragon's voice boomed across the sky, resonating with power that made the air vibrate. "I am Kalikos, aspect of magic and guardian of Azeroth's arcane forces. You have entered our world through means that violate the fundamental laws of reality. Identify yourself and state your purpose, or face the combined might of the dragonflights." Vegeta smirked, crossing his arms as he hovered before the massive creature. In his universe, he had fought gods and entities that could destroy galaxies. A large reptile with magic powers, no matter how intelligent, was hardly intimidating. "I am Vegeta, Prince of all Saiyans," he replied, his voice carrying clearly despite the storm. "And I didn't choose to come here. Some dimensional instability pulled me from my universe." Now I find myself in this backwater realm, addressed by an oversized lizard who thinks his might is worth mentioning. Calicos's eyes narrowed. The disrespect was palpable, but more concerning was the absolute lack of fear in the small figure before him. Mortals who encountered dragon aspects typically responded with awe or terror. This being showed neither. Your arrogance is noted, Saiyan, Calicos said, arcane energy beginning to gather around his form. But arrogance without power to back it is simply foolishness. You will come with me to face the Kirin Tor and answer for your intrusion, peacefully or otherwise. Vegeta laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. You think you're giving me orders? I take commands from no one, least of all a talking animal. If you want to test yourself against me, dragon, then by all means, attack. But I warn you, I've killed gods in my universe. A large lizard, magical or not, won't be the challenge you think you are. The aspect's patience snapped. Calicos unleashed a torrent of pure arcane energy from his maw, a blast that could level mountains and had destroyed armies in seconds. The magical energy screamed toward Vegeta with the force of a collapsing star, reality itself warping from the concentrated power. Vegeta didn't move. His aura flared brighter, and he simply raised one hand. The arcane blast struck an invisible barrier inches from his palm, the energy dispersing harmlessly around him like water striking a rock. Not a single hair on his head moved from the force. Is that it? Vegeta asked, genuinely disappointed. This is the might of a guardian? Pathetic. Before Calicos could respond, Vegeta vanished. The dragon's enhanced perception barely tracked the movement as the Saiyan appeared directly in front of his massive head, one fist drawn back. The punch connected with force that sent shockwaves rippling through the clouds, and the ancient dragon aspect was sent hurtling backward through the air, his massive form tumbling end over end for nearly a mile before he managed to stabilize himself. Pain, actual pain. Calicos hadn't felt such physical impact in millennia. His scales, harder than any earthly metal and reinforced with layers of protective magic, had cracked from a single blow. Blood, the color of liquid sapphires, dripped from his snout. Impossible, the aspect breathed. No mortal possesses such raw physical power. Vegeta appeared beside him again, moving so fast the dragon couldn't track the movement. Mortal, I'm far beyond whatever passes for mortality in this world. Now you have two choices, dragon. Direct me to this world's strongest warriors so I can test their worth, or get out of my way and let me find them myself. Calicos's pride as an aspect warred with his duty to protect Azeroth. This being had demonstrated power that rivaled or exceeded his own, and more concerning, had done so casually. A full battle between them could devastate the region below. Yet allowing such a threat to roam unchecked was equally unacceptable. Very well, Calicos said, his voice tight with controlled anger. You seek worthy opponents? Then face the champions of the Horde and Alliance. They have defeated the Burning Legion, imprisoned old gods, and brought down false kings. Perhaps they will teach you humility. Vegeta smiled. Now we're getting somewhere. Lead the way, dragon. And if these champions disappoint me like you have, I'll reduce their cities to rubble until someone worth my time appears. The aspect turned toward the eastern continent, toward the twin capitals of Stormwind and Orgrimmar. He sent urgent telepathic warnings ahead, alerting both factions of the incoming threat. Behind him, Vegeta followed at a leisurely pace, his anticipation growing. Perhaps this world held challenges after all. They crossed the sea in minutes, approaching the eastern kingdoms as the sun broke through the storm clouds. Below, Vegeta could see a massive human city of white stone and blue roofs, its architecture impressive by this world's standards though primitive compared to Capsule Corporation's technology. Thousands of people filled its streets, and he could sense hundreds of warriors among them, their power levels higher than the average inhabitants but still disappointingly weak. At the city's gates, an army had assembled. Humans in heavy plate armor formed shield walls, their formations precise and disciplined. Behind them, mages in colorful robes prepared spells, arcane energy crackling around their hands. Priests called upon the light, their holy magic creating a golden radiance that illuminated the assembled forces. Cavalry units mounted on massive war horses waited in reserve, and siege weapons on the walls trained toward the sky. At the army's head stood a figure in ornate golden armor, a massive sword strapped to his back. King Anduin Rin, boy king turned warrior, regarded the approaching figures with a mixture of concern and determination. Beside him, Lady Jaina Proudmoore's hands already glowed with prepared frost magic, while High Exarch Turalion gripped his hammer, light radiating from his ancient form. "Is that the intruder?" Anduin asked Kalikos telepathically. "He seems so small." "Do not let his size deceive you, King Rin," the dragon aspect replied. "That being struck me with more force than Deathwing in his prime. Approach with extreme caution." Vegeta descended slowly, touching down 50 yards from the Alliance forces. His eyes swept across the assembled army with barely concealed contempt. Thousands of soldiers, all weak. The strongest among them had power levels that wouldn't have impressed Raditz, let alone a Super Saiyan. "This is what you consider champions?" Vegeta called out to Kalikos, his voice dripping with disdain. "An army of insects? I expected warriors, not a parade of weaklings hiding behind their toys." Anduin stepped forward, raising one hand to stay his troops. "I am Anduin Rin, King of Stormwind and leader of the Alliance. You have entered our world uninvited and threatened one of our most ancient guardians. We do not seek conflict, stranger, but we will not allow you to harm our people. State your intentions." "Intentions?" Vegeta repeated, crossing his arms. "I intend to find worthy opponents in this backwater realm. I intend to test my strength against whoever claims to be powerful here. And if none of you can provide a decent challenge, I intend to tear this world apart until someone who can decides to show themselves." Jaina stepped forward beside her king, frost gathering around her as the temperature plummeted. "Bold words for someone who stands alone before an army. We have faced the Legion, defeated the Lich King, and imprisoned the old gods. Your arrogance will be your downfall." Vegeta's smile widened. "Then prove it. Show me this power you claim to possess. Attack me with everything you have, and perhaps, one of you will be worth acknowledging." Turalion raised his hammer high. "For the Alliance, for Azeroth, show this arrogant fool the might of the light." The entire army surged forward as one, thousands of warriors charging while mages unleashed a barrage of spells. Fireballs, frostbolts, arcane missiles, and holy smites converged on Vegeta's position. Enough magical firepower to reduce a mountain to glass. The siege weapons fired simultaneously, massive bolts and boulders screaming through the air. Vegeta stood perfectly still, his expression bored. When the attacks struck, they simply dissipated against his aura, unable to penetrate the protective layer of ki that surrounded him. The physical projectiles shattered on impact, their fragments falling harmlessly around his feet. "My turn," Vegeta said quietly. He raised one hand, palm outward, and released a fraction of his power. The energy wave that erupted from his palm was invisible but devastating, a kinetic force that swept across the battlefield like a god's breath. Hundreds of soldiers were thrown backward, their heavy armor offering no protection against the sheer concussive force. Siege weapons toppled from the walls, and several of the city's towers cracked from the shockwave. Before the Alliance could recover, Vegeta moved. He appeared in the midst of their formation, and his movements became a blur. A punch sent a paladin flying 100 yards, his blessed armor crumpling like paper. A kick shattered 3 shields and the arms holding them. A casual backhand sent a dozen warriors tumbling like ragdolls. Jaina responded instantly, summoning a blizzard that encased Vegeta in a prison of magical ice. The temperature dropped to absolute zero, a cold that could freeze a dragon solid. For a moment, the Saiyan's form was completely entombed in crystalline frost. Did we? Anduin began. The ice exploded outward in a shower of glittering fragments. Vegeta stood unchanged, not even shivering, his aura having protected him from the magical cold. Interesting trick, he said, but temperature extremes won't work on someone who can survive in the vacuum of space. He appeared before Jaina in an instant, causing the mage to stumble backward in shock. You're stronger than most here, Vegeta observed, studying her with calculating eyes. Still nowhere near my level, but you have potential. What's your name, mage? Jaina Proudmoore? She stammered, managing to maintain her composure despite her terror. Up close, she could sense the sheer magnitude of power radiating from this being. It was like standing before a living sun. Jaina, Vegeta repeated, remember this moment. You're alive because I chose to let you live. Not because your magic could stop me. Now call your strongest warrior. I'm tired of playing with children. Thrall stepped forward, light blazing around him with intensity that forced lesser soldiers to shield their eyes. Thousands of years of channeling the light had transformed the High Exarch into something beyond mortal, a being of pure holy energy barely contained in flesh. I am Thrall, High Exarch of the Army of the Light, he declared, his voice resonating with divine power. I have fought demons for 1,000 years, brought holy justice to the enemies of life itself. Face me, arrogant one, and learn what it means to stand against the light's chosen champion. Vegeta's interest sparked. This one was different, stronger than the others, his power level actually registering as notable, still far below a Super Saiyan, but perhaps he could provide a few minutes of entertainment. Finally, Vegeta said, someone who might be worth my time. Come then, champion. Show me this light you're so proud of. Thrall launched himself forward with supernatural speed, his hammer trailing golden radiance. The weapon came down with force enough to crater stone, backed by centuries of combat experience and divine blessing. Vegeta caught the hammer one-handed, stopping it cold. The shockwave from the blocked strike shattered windows in buildings half a mile away. Not bad, Vegeta acknowledged, genuine surprise in his voice. You actually made me use my hand. The High Exarch's eyes widened in shock. He channeled more light through the hammer, intensifying its power tenfold. The weapon began to glow white-hot, its divine energy burning at a level that could unmake demons. Vegeta's hand remained steady, unburned. My turn, Vegeta said, and drove his free fist into Thrall's armored chest. The punch sent the High Exarch flying backward through 3 buildings before he crashed into the wall of Stormwind Cathedral. Stone exploded outward from the impact, and Thrall fell to his knees, coughing blood. His blessed armor, which had withstood demonic hellfire and void corruption, had a fist-sized dent in its center. Impossible, Thrall gasped. No physical force should penetrate armor blessed by the Naru themselves. Vegeta walked through the rubble toward him, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Your gods are weak if that's the best blessing they can provide. In my universe, I've fought actual deities and found them wanting. Whatever these Naru are, their power is insignificant. Before he could finish Thrall, a new presence made itself known. The air itself seemed to compress as a portal of swirling purple energy materialized in the city square. Through it stepped a figure wrapped in bandages, his eyes glowing with barely contained arcane power. Khadgar, guardian of Azeroth and the most powerful mage on the planet. That's quite enough, Khadgar said calmly, though his hands crackled with prepared spells. You've made your point, stranger. You possess power beyond anything we've encountered. But raw strength isn't everything. Magic has brought down beings far larger and more destructive than you. Vegeta turned to face the new arrival, sensing immediately that this one was different. The mage's power level was significantly higher than anyone else he'd encountered here, and there was an intelligence in those glowing eyes that suggested real competence. A mage who doesn't immediately attack, Vegeta observed. Smart. What's your name, wizard? Khadgar. And I propose an alternative to destroying this city and killing thousands of innocents. You seek worthy opponents? Then come with me. I'll take you to face threats that even our greatest champions struggle against. Prove your strength against the true horrors of Azeroth, not against soldiers and civilians who never stood a chance. Vegeta considered this. The mage was right. There was no honor in slaughtering weaklings. If this world truly had threats powerful enough to challenge even these enhanced humans, then those were the opponents worth seeking. Very well, Vegeta agreed. But if you're lying, if these threats are as disappointing as your armies, I'll reduce every city on this planet to ash. Understood? Khadgar nodded gravely. Understood. And I promise you, Saiyan Prince, what I'm about to show you will test even your considerable power. The mage opened another portal, this one leading to a place of absolute darkness. Through the swirling gateway, Vegeta could sense something vast and malevolent, a presence that registered as genuinely powerful on his scouter readings. For the first time since arriving in this world, his pulse quickened with anticipation. After you, Khadgar said, gesturing to the portal. Vegeta smirked and flew through. The mage followed, and behind them, the portal closed, leaving Stormwind's defenders to count their wounded and marvel that they had survived. On the other side of the portal, Vegeta found himself in a realm that seemed to exist outside normal space. Chains of titanic proportions stretched into infinite darkness, each link larger than a city. They all converged on a central point where something impossibly massive was imprisoned. A writhing mountain of eyes, tentacles, and mouths that defied sanity to behold. This is N'Zoth, Khadgar explained, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. One of the old gods, ancient entities that corrupted our world in its infancy. It takes the combined might of our greatest champions, empowered by artifacts and blessings, just to keep him contained. His whispers can drive entire civilizations mad. His physical form can reshape reality itself. Even imprisoned, his power seeps through, creating monsters and corruption across Azeroth. Vegeta stared at the imprisoned god, his analytical mind assessing the threat. The creature's power level was significant, perhaps equivalent to a mid-level Super Saiyan. More importantly, it radiated a malevolent intelligence that suggested it was more than just a brute force threat. N'Zoth's thousand eyes suddenly focused on Vegeta, and a voice that was not sound but pure thought echoed through the Saiyan's mind. What is this? A being from beyond the great dark? How delicious! Your mind is unlike any I have touched. So much pride, so much rage, so much potential. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. Get out of my head, tentacle face. The old god laughed, a sound like reality tearing. You resist my whispers so easily. Fascinating. The mortals of this world crumble before my voice, yet you stand unaffected. Perhaps you could free me, Saiyan Prince. Together, we could remake this world in your image. All would bow before your power. I need no help from parasites, Vegeta replied coldly. And I certainly don't need to remake anything. I reshape worlds with my power alone, not through corruption and mind tricks. Khadgar watched in amazement as Vegeta completely shrugged off N'Zoth's mental assault. Champions who had trained their entire lives to resist the old god's whispers still struggled. This Saiyan dismissed them as if they were meaningless noise. You wanted to test your strength? Khadgar asked. Then strike at N'Zoth. Try to damage him through his prison. If you can even scratch him, it would be more than any mortal warrior has ever achieved. Vegeta's smile was predatory. Finally, a challenge that might be worth my time. He flew forward, ignoring the thousands of eyes tracking his movement. His aura flared brilliant white as he drew on his power, and his fist cocked back. The punch he threw would have destroyed a planet's surface. The impact sent shockwaves through the infinite prison, causing the titanic chains to rattle. N'Zoth's form rippled from the strike, several eyes bursting in gouts of black ichor. The old god's mental scream of pain and fury echoed across multiple dimensions, causing every being sensitive to the void to clutch their heads in agony across Azeroth. Impossible! N'Zoth's voice roared. No mortal should possess such power. Vegeta prepared another strike, this time gathering key energy in his palm. Gallic gun, the purple beam of energy smashed into the old god's form, burning away layers of corrupted flesh and causing more chains to crack from the stress. For the first time in millennia, N'Zoth felt something approaching fear. This being could actually threaten him, even through his prison. Khadgar stood frozen in shock. The Saiyan had just dealt more damage to N'Zoth than entire armies had managed in their previous encounters, and he was barely exerting himself, showing no signs of fatigue or strain. Enough, Khadgar called out, his voice hoarse. You've proven your point. If you continue, you might actually break his prison, and that would doom our entire world. Vegeta lowered his hand, looking disappointed. That's it? I was just getting started. This creature is tough. I'll give it that, but it's hardly the ultimate challenge you promised. Because he's imprisoned, Khadgar explained. His power is restrained by chains forged by the Titans themselves. At full strength, unbound, he would be exponentially more dangerous. Then free him, Vegeta suggested casually. Let me face him at full power. That's the only way to know if he's truly worth my time. Absolutely not. Khadgar's composure finally cracked. N'Zoth unbound would corrupt and destroy everything. He could turn our entire world into a nightmare realm. Vegeta shrugged. Not my world. Besides, I'd kill him before he got that far. Before Khadgar could argue further, another presence made itself known in the prison realm. The darkness itself seemed to part as a figure of pure void energy materialized. Xal'atath, the blade of the Black Empire, in her manifested form. How amusing, the void entity purred, her voice dripping with malice. A being from beyond the great dark who fears nothing and no one. You interest me, Saiyan. You possess power that predates the void itself, drawn from the primal forces of your home reality. Vegeta turned to face her, noting that this creature, while less physically powerful than N'Zoth, had a different quality to her energy. She was more refined, more focused. And what are you supposed to be? Another monster that talks too much? I am knowledge, Xal'atath replied. I am the whisper in the darkness that reveals terrible truths. And I see many truths about you, Prince Vegeta. You seek strength above all else. You hunger for worthy opponents. But most importantly, you fear becoming irrelevant. Vegeta's aura flared dangerously. You know nothing about me, creature. I know that in your universe, you are forever second best. Xal'atath continued, circling him like a predator. No matter how hard you train, another always surpasses you. Kakarot, that's the name that haunts you, isn't it? The low-class warrior who became stronger than the prince. Shut up, Vegeta said coldly, his power level rising. But here, in this universe, you could be first. The void entity whispered. No one to overshadow you, no one to steal your victories. You could be the supreme power, the unquestioned strongest. All you need do is stay. Embrace this world as your new domain. Vegeta's fist clenched, but his power level stabilized. After a moment, he laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. You're good. I'll give you that. You identified my weak spot and exploited it perfectly. But you made one mistake. Oh? Xal'atath asked, intrigued despite herself. You assumed I want to be first because I fear being second, Vegeta explained. Wrong. I push myself to surpass Kakarot because competition makes me stronger. Without him to chase, I would stagnate. Here, in this universe of weaklings, I would become complacent. I need rivals who can challenge me, and this world doesn't have them. Khadgar, who had been listening to the exchange, felt a chill run down his spine. The Saiyan had just dismissed the most powerful beings in Azeroth, entities that required the combined might of every faction to even contain, as weaklings not worth his time. Then perhaps you need to look beyond the obvious threats, Khadgar suggested carefully. There are forces in this universe you haven't encountered yet. The Burning Legion spans multiple worlds. The Void Lords exist outside reality itself, and the Titans, the beings who shaped our world, possess power that dwarfs anything you've seen here. Vegeta's interest rekindled. Titans? How strong are they? They're world souls, Khadgar explained. Celestial beings of such immense power that their mere awakening can reshape solar systems. The one sleeping within Azeroth is the most powerful of all, which is why so many forces seek to corrupt or control her. And beyond them are the Void Lords, entities that exist in the spaces between realities. Now we're getting somewhere, Vegeta said. Take me to these Titans. If they're as powerful as you claim, they might actually be worth fighting. The Titans don't simply appear on command, Khadgar replied. They exist beyond normal space and time. But there are echoes of their power, constructs and facilities left behind when they shaped Azeroth. We could visit one such location, Ulduar, a city of the Titans in Northrend. There, you might find challenges more suited to your level. Vegeta nodded. Then that's where we go next. And Mage, if this is another disappointment, I'm done playing tour guide. I'll start dismantling this world piece by piece until something truly powerful reveals itself. Khadgar opened another portal, this one leading to the frozen wastes of Northrend. Through it, the spires of Ulduar were visible, their architecture impossibly advanced and thrumming with Titan energy. As Vegeta flew through, Khadgar sent urgent mental messages to every major faction on Azeroth. The message was simple: a being of unprecedented power walks our world. He has bested our champions, wounded an old god, and dismissed our greatest threats as beneath him. We must find a way to contain or redirect him, or Azeroth itself may be destroyed in the search for a challenge worthy of his attention. In Orgrimmar, Warchief Thrall received the message and called an emergency council. Across the sea in Stormwind, King Anduin did the same. And in the Netherlight Temple, the class orders began to assemble, preparing for a threat unlike any they had faced. The stage was set for a conflict that would test Azeroth's defenders as never before. And at the center of it all, a Saiyan prince who had no investment in their world and no reason to hold back. Ulduar loomed before them, a city carved from mountains and metal, its architecture blending stone and technology in ways that shouldn't be possible. Massive statues of Titan Watchers lined the entrance, each one hundreds of feet tall and radiating residual power from the beings who had created them millennia ago. Vegeta landed at the entrance, his senses immediately picking up the numerous power signatures within. The facility was active, its defenses and guardians still operational after countless centuries. More importantly, the energy signatures were significantly stronger than anything he'd encountered in the surface world. This is more like it, Vegeta said, his anticipation building. I can sense dozens of powerful constructs within. Finally, opponents that might last more than a few seconds. Khadgar appeared beside him through a portal. Ulduar was built by the Titans to study and order Azeroth, but it was also a prison, containing an old god called Yogg-Saron. The facility's guardians were designed to face threats that could endanger the entire world. Good, Vegeta said simply, walking toward the entrance. Let's see how they handle a Saiyan. The moment he crossed the threshold, massive doors of enchanted metal slammed down behind him, and the facility's defenses activated. Energy barriers sprang up throughout the complex, channeling him toward a central chamber where a metallic giant awaited. XT-002 Deconstructor stood 40 feet tall, its form a fusion of Titan technology and twisted flesh. Its mechanical voice boomed through the chamber. Alert! Unauthorized life form detected. Initiating extermination protocols. The construct's chest opened, revealing a heart of corrupted organic matter that pulsed with dark energy. From its hands, beams of pure destruction lanced toward Vegeta, capable of unmaking matter at the molecular level. Vegeta dodged casually, the beams passing through where he'd been standing and vaporizing the wall behind him. Deconstruction beams? Cute, but you'll need to be faster than that. He appeared above the construct in an instant and drove his elbow down onto its head. The impact sent XT-002 crashing into the floor, creating a crater 30 feet deep. Warning lights flashed across its damaged chassis as it struggled to process how a being so much smaller had generated such force. New toys! XT-002's voice screeched, its corrupted programming glitching. Must break new toys! The construct unleashed a barrage of attacks. Gravity wells that could crush steel, energy blasts that could level buildings, and swarms of explosive devices. Vegeta weaved through them all, his movements too fast for the construct's sensors to track, and each of his counter strikes tore away chunks of the mechanical giant's body. Within 2 minutes, XT-002 lay in ruins, its corrupted heart exposed and vulnerable. Vegeta prepared to destroy it entirely when Khadgar's voice called out, "Wait, if you destroy that completely, you'll release the old god corruption it contains throughout the facility. We need to..." Vegeta ignored him and fired a Kai blast directly into the heart. But instead of an explosion, his energy seemed to be absorbed by the corrupted flesh, which began to pulse and grow, spreading tendrils of darkness throughout the chamber. From within the spreading corruption, a voice echoed, older, more malevolent than N'Zoth's. "At last, something interesting enters my prison. A being whose mind is shielded from my influence, whose power rivals the keepers themselves. You are not of this world, stranger. Your energy signature is delicious." "Another old god?" Vegeta asked, genuinely curious now. "You things really like to talk, don't you?" "I am Yog-Saron, the god of death, the beast with 1,000 maws," the voice replied. "Unlike my brother, N'Zoth, whose power lies in corruption, I am destruction incarnate. Even the Titans feared me enough to build this entire complex as my prison." The corruption coalesced into a massive form, a writhing nightmare of mouths, eyes, and tentacles that filled the entire chamber. Unlike N'Zoth's restrained power, Yogg-Saron's presence was immediately, overwhelmingly threatening. His power level registered significantly higher, approaching the level where Vegeta might actually need to transform. "Now this is promising," Vegeta said, his smile widening. "Show me what you've got, beast." Yogg-Saron attacked with horrifying speed for something so massive. Dozens of tentacles lashed out simultaneously, each one capable of crushing mountains. Vegeta dodged and countered, his fists tearing through the corrupted flesh. But for every tentacle he destroyed, 2 more grew in its place. "You cannot win, Saiyan," Yogg-Saron roared. "I am eternal. I am inevitable. Your universe will fall to the void, and I shall feast on its dying screams." "Big words," Vegeta replied, charging ki in both hands. "Let's see if you can back them up." Final flash. The golden beam of energy tore through the chamber, incinerating countless tentacles and burning away layers of corruption. For a moment, it seemed Vegeta would destroy the old god entirely. Then Yogg-Saron's true form emerged from beneath the corruption, a massive brain-like structure protected by a thick carapace of bone and chitin. "That actually hurt," Yogg-Saron admitted, surprise in his ancient voice. "You are strong, Saiyan, stronger than the champions who defeated me before. But I have learned from that defeat. Observe." The old god's form began to shift and change, adapting in real time to Vegeta's fighting style. Armor thickened where the Saiyan strikes had landed. New weapons grew specifically designed to counter his speed and power. It was evolution in fast forward, a demonstration of the old god's ability to adapt and overcome. Vegeta's eyes widened in recognition. You're learning from me, analyzing my techniques and creating counters. Interesting, but you're still too slow. He flickered forward, moving at speeds that broke the sound barrier, and landed a devastating combination on Yogg-Saron's core. The old god's scream of pain shook the entire facility, causing sections of Ulduar to collapse. Yet still it refused to fall, its regeneration keeping pace with even Vegeta's relentless assault. "This is taking too long," Vegeta muttered. His aura exploded outward, golden light filling the chamber. "I didn't want to transform for someone of your level, but you're tougher than expected. Let's end this quickly." His hair stood on end, turning golden, and his eyes shifted to teal. The power radiating from his Super Saiyan form was exponentially greater than before, causing the very foundations of Ulduar to crack from the pressure. Yogg-Saron's countless eyes widened in something approaching fear. What are you?" "I am the prince of all Saiyans," Vegeta said, his voice echoing with power. "And you were never even close to my level." He moved, and reality itself seemed to bend around him. His strikes landed faster than thought, each one tearing away massive chunks of the old god's form. Yogg-Saron tried to regenerate, tried to adapt, but the sheer, overwhelming power of a Super Saiyan was beyond anything evolution could counter. Within 30 seconds, the god of death was reduced to a broken, barely conscious shell. "Impossible," Yogg-Saron whispered, his voice weak. "The Void Lords themselves don't possess such power. What manner of being are you?" "One from a universe where gods are just another stepping stone," Vegeta replied, powering down. "You were decent practice, but ultimately disappointing. Is there nothing in this world that can truly challenge me?" Khadgar had witnessed the entire battle from the safety of a shielded observation platform, and his hands trembled as he processed what he'd seen. Vegeta had just defeated an old god, not contained, not imprisoned, but actually defeated, and had done so while treating it as a minor inconvenience. "Light save us," the mage whispered. "What have we allowed into our world?" Before he could consider the implications further, the entire facility began to shake. Emergency systems activated throughout Ulduar, and a new presence made itself known. One of the original Titan Watchers, awakened by the defeat of Yogg-Saron. Algalon the Observer materialized in the chamber, his form composed of pure cosmic energy in a vaguely humanoid shape. Stars and galaxies swirled within his body, and his power level registered higher than anything Vegeta had encountered in this world so far. "Analysis complete," Algalon stated, his voice resonating with otherworldly authority. "Containment of designated old god has been compromised. Local planetary defenses have proven insufficient. Reply code Omega has been transmitted. The Pantheon will be notified. This world will be re-originated." "Re-originated?" Vegeta asked, intrigued by the construct's confidence. "This planet has been judged corrupt beyond salvation," Algalon explained. "The Titans will send the constellation of Algalon to cleanse all life from Azeroth and begin anew. It is regrettable, but necessary." Vegeta's smile turned predatory. "And you're going to stop me from preventing that?" "I am not here to stop you," Algalon replied. "I am here to delay you. The signal has already been sent. The hour of twilight approaches for this world." The Observer attacked without further warning, and Vegeta immediately understood why this construct was different. Algalon moved at relativistic speeds, his blows carrying the force of collapsing stars. His attacks weren't just physical but reality warping, each strike attempting to rewrite Vegeta's existence at a fundamental level. For the first time since arriving in this universe, Vegeta had to actually concentrate. Algalon was fast, skilled, and possessed power that approached a Super Saiyan's level. The battle raged through Ulduar's halls, each exchange of blows demolishing sections of the ancient facility. "Impressive," Algalon stated, his voice never losing its clinical detachment. You possess power equivalent to a nascent titan. However, your techniques are crude, relying on raw force rather than cosmic precision. Crude? Vegeta snarled, catching one of Algalon's strikes and countering with a kick that sent the observer crashing through 3 walls. I've mastered combat techniques spanning thousands of years. Your cosmic power means nothing without the skill to use it properly. The observation platform where Khadgar hid shattered as the combatants' battle reached it. The mage barely managed to teleport to safety, appearing outside the facility just as a massive explosion tore through Ulduar's upper levels. From his new vantage point, Khadgar could see the battle continuing within. Flashes of golden and cosmic light visible through the breaks in the structure. More concerning, he could see Alliance and Horde forces approaching from multiple directions, having received his earlier warnings. Leading the Alliance contingent was Varian Rin's spirit weapon, Charlemagne, wielded by warriors who had taken up the fallen king's cause. The Horde was led by Thrall himself, flanked by the champions who had saved Azeroth countless times before. And from the skies descended dragons of all flights: red, blue, green, bronze, and black, answering the call to defend their world. This is going to be a disaster, Khadgar muttered, preparing to teleport back into the facility to try and prevent more bloodshed. Inside Ulduar, Vegeta and Algalon's battle had reached a stalemate. The Observer's cosmic power and Vegeta's Super Saiyan strength were evenly matched, neither able to gain a decisive advantage. For Algalon, this was unprecedented. Nothing in his database suggested a mortal being could match a Titan construct's power. You are an anomaly, Algalon stated, creating distance between them. Your existence violates known physical laws. You should not be possible. I get that a lot, Vegeta replied, breathing slightly heavy for the first time since arriving in this universe. But here's what you don't understand, construct. This isn't even my final form. His aura exploded again, and arcs of lightning began to dance around his body. His hair grew longer, extending down his back, and the sheer power radiating from him increased exponentially. Super Saiyan 2, a transformation beyond the already godlike Super Saiyan state. Algalon's stellar form flickered with what might have been concern. Power levels increasing exponentially. This is unprecedented. And now, Vegeta said, his voice crackling with energy, you're going to see the difference between cosmic power and a Saiyan's limit-breaking potential. He attacked with such speed that even Algalon's enhanced perception could barely track him. The strikes came from all angles simultaneously, each one carrying enough force to shatter planets. The observer's form began to destabilize, his cosmic energy unable to maintain cohesion under the relentless assault. Impossible! Algalon's voice fractured and glitched. No mortal cannot achieve, error. With one final burst of energy, Vegeta's Big Bang attack consumed Algalon entirely. When the light faded, the observer was gone, his cosmic essence dispersed across multiple dimensions. Vegeta powered down, returning to his base form. His breathing was steady, showing that even that intense battle hadn't truly taxed him. He turned to find Khadgar standing at the chamber's entrance, flanked by the combined forces of the Alliance and Horde. You destroyed Algalon, Khadgar said, his voice hollow. The signal to the Pantheon has been stopped, but the cost, that construct was irreplaceable, and you defeated an old god. Do you understand what you've done? Vegeta shrugged. I fought worthy opponents and won. Isn't that what you brought me here for? We brought you here to test your strength, not to reshape the fundamental balance of our world. Thrall stepped forward, lightning crackling around him. You're too dangerous to allow free reign. As war chief of the Horde, I cannot permit you to continue this rampage. And as champions of Azeroth, added Tyrion Fordring, stepping forward with the Ashbringer in hand, We have a duty to protect this world from all threats, foreign and domestic. Vegeta looked at the assembled forces, hundreds of the world's greatest champions, backed by dragons and armed with legendary weapons. His scouter readings showed that several of them possessed power levels comparable to Raditz or even Nappa. Together, coordinated and prepared, they might actually provide an entertaining fight. All of you at once? Vegeta asked, his smile returning. Now that's more like it. Finally, a challenge that might be worth my full attention. The champions charged as one, and the battle for Ulduar began in earnest. Magic, steel, holy light, and elemental fury converged on Vegeta from every angle. Dragons unleashed their breath weapons while paladins called down the light's judgment. Shamans summoned earthquakes, and mages bent reality itself to create killing zones of pure destruction. Vegeta moved through it all like a dancer through raindrops. His combat instincts honed through a lifetime of battle, allowing him to anticipate and counter every attack. A punch here eliminated 3 warriors. A key blast there scattered a dragon's breath weapon. Every movement was efficient, calculated, and devastatingly effective. But for the first time since arriving in this world, he was actually being pressured. The champions' coordination was flawless. Their tactics honed through years of fighting together against impossible odds. When he focused on one group, another would strike from his blind spot. When he destroyed one formation, 2 more would form to replace it. Better, Vegeta admitted, blocking a strike from the Ashbringer that would have bisected a lesser opponent. You're actually making me work for this. Thrall channeled the full power of the elements, transforming into a being of pure elemental fury. For Azeroth, his attack, combined with simultaneous strikes from a dozen other champions, actually forced Vegeta backward. The Saiyan prince's armor cracked, the first damage he'd sustained since arriving in this universe. Now we're talking, Vegeta said, his excitement building. Again. The battle raged for nearly an hour, with neither side able to claim victory. Vegeta was too powerful and skilled for even coordinated champions to overcome, but they were too numerous and too well coordinated for him to eliminate quickly. It was a stalemate, and Vegeta was loving every second of it. Then, suddenly, he stopped. His head turned toward the sky, sensing something new. A presence unlike anything he'd encountered in this world. Vast, ancient, and approaching rapidly. Finally, Vegeta whispered, something truly powerful. The champions felt it too. Every sensitive soul on the planet suddenly became aware of a consciousness awakening, a presence that had slept since before history began. Azeroth herself, the world's soul, was stirring. Enough. The voice resonated not through sound, but through existence itself, simultaneously heard and felt by every living thing on the planet. Reality rippled outward from a point somewhere within Azeroth's core, and suddenly everyone, Vegeta included, found themselves standing on a plane of pure white light. Before them stood a figure of impossible beauty and power. Azeroth, in her manifested form, appeared as a woman composed of living crystal and starlight, her presence radiating power that dwarfed everything Vegeta had encountered so far. Her power level registered higher than even Frieza in his final form. I have watched you since you arrived, child of another cosmos, Azeroth said, her voice gentle despite its overwhelming power. You seek challenges, but you do not understand what you truly search for. Vegeta stared at the world soul, his warrior instincts screaming that this was different. This wasn't a construct or a contained threat. This was a being of fundamental cosmic power, possibly the equal of Beerus or the other gods of destruction. You're strong, Vegeta acknowledged. Stronger than anything else I've found here. Are you going to fight me? No, Azeroth replied, because you do not truly wish to fight me. You seek not destruction, but growth. You push yourself against worthy opponents because that is how your species evolves. But there is a difference between a challenge that makes you stronger and a battle that serves no purpose. What do you know about my purpose? Vegeta demanded. I know that you left a family behind, Azeroth said gently. A wife, children, a rival who pushes you to greater heights. You search for challenges here because you fear returning home and finding the time has passed you by. That your rival has grown even stronger in your absence. Vegeta's fist clenched. That's none of your concern. But it is, the world soul continued, because your search for purpose in my world threatens to destroy it. You have defeated old gods, destroyed titan constructs, and battled my champions. All because you are lost, unable to return home and unwilling to accept that you may no longer belong there. I belong wherever I choose to be, Vegeta snarled. And if that means tearing apart universes until I find worthy opponents, so be it. That is the pride speaking, Azeroth said. The same pride that has driven you to greatness, but also holds you back from achieving true peace. Tell me, Prince Vegeta, if I offered you a way home, would you take it? The question hung in the air. Vegeta stood silent, considering. Around them, the champions watched, hardly daring to breathe. Can you do it? Vegeta finally asked. Can you actually send me back? I am a world soul, a titan in waiting, Azeroth replied. My power encompasses the fundamental forces of reality within my sphere of influence. Yes, I can open a path between dimensions. But first, you must answer, do you wish to return? Vegeta's mind raced. Return to his universe, to his training, to his eternal competition with Kakarot. Or stay here, where he was unquestionably the strongest, where no one could overshadow him. The choice should have been simple. What's the catch? He asked suspiciously. No catch, Azeroth said. But understand this. If you return, the dimensional barriers will seal behind you. You will never find your way back to my world. This moment of choice is singular and permanent. Vegeta looked at the assembled champions, at Khadgar, at the dragons circling overhead. In this world, he was supreme. No one could challenge him, no one could defeat him. He would be the undisputed strongest, forever. But that was exactly the problem. Without real challenges, without the push to grow stronger, he would stagnate. He would become comfortable, complacent. Everything a Saiyan should never be. Send me back, Vegeta said finally. This world isn't for me. I don't need to be the strongest in a universe of weaklings. I need rivals who can push me beyond my limits. Azeroth smiled, an expression of genuine approval. That is wisdom, Prince Vegeta. You have chosen growth over glory, challenge over comfort. For that, you have my respect. The world soul raised one crystalline hand, and reality began to tear open behind Vegeta. Through the rift, he could see his own universe, Earth floating in space, Capsule Corps' distinctive logo visible from orbit. Wait, Khadgar called out. Before you go, why did you really come here? Was it random, or was there a purpose? Vegeta paused at the portal's edge. I don't know. The dimensional walls collapsed around me during training. Maybe it was random. Maybe it was fate. Maybe the multiverse itself knew I needed to learn this lesson. He turned back to face them one last time. Your world is worth defending. These champions, despite their weakness compared to me, fight with honor and courage. Don't take that for granted. And you, Prince Vegeta, Azeroth said, remember that strength is not measured solely in power levels. True strength includes knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Vegeta smirked. Don't push it, World Soul. I'm still a Saiyan. With that, he stepped through the portal. The last thing the champions of Azeroth saw was his golden aura flaring one final time, a farewell and a warning both, a reminder of what had walked among them and chosen to leave. The portal sealed, and reality returned to normal. The champions found themselves back at Ulduar's ruins, the battle finished, the threat gone. They had survived an encounter with a being from beyond their reality, and in doing so, had gained a new appreciation for just how vast the multiverse truly was. Khadgar looked at the space where the portal had been and smiled slightly. "Well," he said to no one in particular, "that was certainly educational." Thrall approached, placing a hand on the mage's shoulder. "We must never speak of this to the general populace. A being of that power, capable of defeating old gods and titan constructs single-handedly, it would cause panic." "Agreed," Khadgar replied, "but we should document it, for the archives, so that if something like this ever happens again, future generations will have warning." Above them, the dragons circled once before departing to their respective domains. Each carried memories of the Saiyan prince, a being who had redefined their understanding of power and shown them that their universe was but one among infinite possibilities. And somewhere, in a completely different reality, Vegeta landed in Capsule Corp's training facility, where Goku was waiting with his characteristic grin. "Hey Vegeta, you were gone for like 3 hours. I was starting to think you bailed on our sparring match." 3 hours. In Azeroth, he'd spent 3 months. Time dilation between dimensions, Vegeta realized. He looked at his rival, at the cheerful face that had pushed him to greatness time and again, and smiled. "Not a chance, Kakarot," Vegeta said, dropping into a fighting stance. "I've got some new techniques to test, and you're going to help me perfect them." As the two Saiyans launched into battle, neither noticed the faint shimmer in the dimensional fabric high above Earth, a scar left by Vegeta's journey, a reminder that the multiverse was vast and full of wonders beyond imagination. In Azeroth, life continued. The champions returned to their duties, the dragons to their flights, and the world soul to her slumber. But they all carried the memory of the day when a prince from another universe had walked among them and shown them that power, true power, came not from domination, but from the eternal pursuit of growth. The story would be passed down through generations, becoming legend, then myth, then fairy tale. But those who had been there would never forget the truth, that for one brief moment, their world had been visited by something beyond comprehension, and they had survived not through strength of arms, but through the mercy of a warrior prince who valued challenge over conquest. And in the darkest corners of Azeroth, in the prisons where old gods dreamed and schemed, N'Zoth and what remained of Yogg-Saron shared a single thought that echoed through the void. Thank the darkness he chose to leave.